All right, we are here. We are live, and we have the legend himself, Mr. Vernon Roth, TeslaTech extraordinaire. He has taken pretty much a decade off, but he was there this year, and next year you are back being the MC again, and your own presentation, which I am so looking forward to. Vernon, thank you for joining us, sir.
Cool deal. Well, I appreciate the invite, and I'm excited to be here.
And we were talking over the last few days that you're now also been focusing recently on some alchemy stuff. So why don't we'll start there. What's the alchemy you've been working on, sir?
Well, I never stopped working on alchemy.
Focusing on, my apologies.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I started out studying alchemy by looking at ancient temple sites, and I had some unique encounters with some American Indian tribal elders and some ancient archaeological researchers, and found a lot of information in some sites about initiation and alchemical initiation in particular, and that led me down some very interesting paths.
I gotta just quickly interrupt that. Isn't it amazing how when you get back to the roots, like the real tribal roots, going to the elders of the indigenous, no matter where in the world, alchemy is a huge part, and that they all have these shared knowledges of actual alchemy, including the American indigenous populations and communities, right? So it's like, how did the Chinese, how did the Babylonians, the Egyptians, and the Native Americans, South Americans all have this alchemy knowledge, unless there's a single source or something?
Well, if you want to go back that far, the very first alchemical reference that I ever found was in the Sumerian tablets. In the story, there's a story between I believe it was Inanna and the master alchemist Enki, and she said, "I will marry you. I will love you forever. You will never doubt my dedication to you. Just teach me the secrets of transmutation and alchemy." So that from my research, that is the very first reference to alchemy in historical literature.
And that's like some creation stories right there, right?
There you go. There you go.
In our creation myths.
Yep. And when you start talking to remote viewers, and they look at the creation of our race, what do they find? They find a laboratory populated by people that look a heck of a lot like the ancient Sumerian gods. So I find that very interesting. We can go down the Zachariah Sitchin rabbit hole, but that would be another discussion all in and of itself. But not to be an iconoclast and challenge anyone's belief structure, but it is an interesting.
It's that no matter what rabbit hole of history or belief you go down, alchemy's tied to it immensely, right? So it's like you can't escape it, basically.
Yeah, and it's it's tied into so many aspects of the development of our world. I found references in Chinese literature, the ancient Chinese art of three-dimensional tattooing, using alchemical fluids to connect certain meridian points and pressure points in the body, basically turning the body into a printed circuit for advanced abilities and stuff like that. Yeah, there's kind of a misconception in the popular fringe field that alchemy in the Eastern Asian countries was limited to internal exercises, but it wasn't. That the external portion was actually eradicated towards the middle of the 19th century, back in the 1800s, and so they destroyed a lot of books that talked about the processes of making the alchemical dyes and the tattoos that they would anoint themselves with. So,
right, like
and then you go into
monks still have,
what's
I
that?
believe Tibetan monks still have some of those books and knowledge
Yeah.
and practices, as do a lot of the East Indian yogis and gurus and stuff, right? The masters, they're still practicing the actual physical alchemical processes and
Yes.
technologies.
Yes. And everybody has developed a little bit different path. That's why we call it a path and not a recipe. But like when you get into India, you get to, I mean, literally, there's processes where people will take a pill, a golden nugget, and they will swallow it and they'll hold it within themselves. They will do meditations for a year and charge that gold within them, and they will, through yogic practices, tantric practices, and meditation, they'll expel that gold. They'll take that gold and they will give it to somebody else as a medicine to extend life and heal people. So it's amazing the complexity and the things that we've discovered over the years that leads back to this both internal manifestation and external manifestation that we like to call alchemy. So it's exciting.
Absolutely. And so I'm just going to bring up another little part of our pre-stream conversation, where you're discussing like the stone, the philosopher's stone, and you said the journey begins really once you get there, and then I stated that, right, that that's what connects you to your higher self, to what they call the Christ consciousness, essentially your eternal soul, your Akashic record. And that's truly when an alchemist's journey, or any individual's journey, begins, is when you're actually able to connect your physical reality and consciousness to your eternal soul and karmatic being.
And that is, I believe that that's absolutely true. I don't mean to say that the journey doesn't start until you make the stone, but the stone is your, like, I view it as your entrance examinations into college. You've done a lot of work to get there, and now the fun stuff starts. But yeah, I see. We did some experiments with extracting certain alchemical substances from pine trees and certain resinous plants, and creating something that we called a priori, which means to know without experience. And it would absolutely transform your mind and transform how you viewed the world. It was very, very powerful. A lot of my work has been to and I didn't understand this until I was way down the path, was that we need to combine alchemy with things like Tesla technology and the energies that we're working with. And when we marry those two together, it's a game changer. I mean, it already is. I don't know if you're familiar with my electric water that my family and I created a while back. Have you
No,
ever heard of that?
please go into this in detail.
Okay. Okay. So turn the Wayback Machine to about 2003, 2004, and no, yeah, about somewhere around there. And we created something, a healing water that literally holds a magnetic field and actually has a spark that will zap you when you touch the top of the
Oh
water.
my God.
Yeah.
I have heard a lot about this water, and I have actually
Okay.
only heard extremely positive, powerful testimonies of those that have had the pleasure of accessing it. And I was jealous and trying to find out the source. And now we have it, Mr. Vernon Roth and his family. Please go on.
Well, and we could take we had a circle of over 100 people, one person holding the bottle in the end, and everybody holding hands, and the other person sticks their finger in the top of it, and you can feel it zap every single person. It's not like an electric charge where the poor guy on the end gets blasted off his feet. It's a powerful zap, but it is enlivening, and it feels good. And that's because it's not about static electricity. It's not about the shock. It is literally a condensate of ether. We found a way to condense ether energy, structure it in a manner that was usable, and condense it into this water, and the water holds the energy. The ether is what manifests the magnetic field. The ether is what manifests the shock. And so this was all done by combining alchemy with Tesla technology, with zero-point energy technology, and marrying them all together. And so it's a beautiful process. It takes a lot of dedication, but what container did you have it in? Well, we could put it in glass, we could put it in plastic. Didn't matter, as long as
Really,
metal
that's
would just.
amazing.
Oh yeah, we could take a glass bottle, let's say a Voss water bottle, plug it into, charge it, and nothing ever actually touches the water. It's not like we put anything in the water
So no
except energy.
electrodes in. It's you're
No
charging from
electrodes in.
above.
All but done by projecting the energy into the water, and then you put it in the freezer, and you come back. You can come back a year later, and oftentimes the water hadn't frozen. It wouldn't freeze until you started shaking
Oh
it up. It
wow,
was really wild.
really?
And then you touch the top, and it would still zap you. You set it on the shelf for a year and come back, and it'll still zap you. Because, like I said, it's not about a static charge. It's about creating an etheric energy draw, pulling that energy in, and energizing it into the water. So yeah,
That
it was a powerful journey to discover
That's
that.
amazing. I need some
Yeah.
of your water. I myself had it was with Fiji water,
Hmm.
ironically once, but I'm up in Canada and I will never forget. There was one time it was like minus 30 degrees Celsius out. I had left a full Fiji 1 liter bottle in my truck, and I went out and it was still liquid. I was like, "What the heck?" And I shook it, and then it did that solidification
Yeah.
crystal thing that you're talking about. I know exactly what it is,
And that's a
and
beautiful thing to watch, isn't it? Just a.
oh, it's
Yeah.
mesmerizing. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's wild watching that phase shift just happen all at once. It's a magical experience, and the fact that it
Hmm.
still contained the charge afterwards, uh, that's that's pretty epic.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you want to
Yeah.
go a little bit more into that? And are you still making it, selling it? Can people buy it?
We're not selling it a lot. We use it personally, but we're not selling a lot anymore. Basically, it's the shipping. I'll be honest. It is hard to get it anywhere because and the yahoos at the shipping companies, UPS, FedEx, they're X-raying everything. They're exposing everything to a significant amount of radiation, and it's very, very frustrating because when you look at Wilhelm Reich's work and you look at orgone, but he also talked about DOR, deadly orgone radiation, which can be artificially induced by microwaves and all that fun stuff. It's pretty wild.
Right, and it is.
Is
And
the
that's
water sticky or slippery? No. And there was another question about O17, and it is. I am familiar very much with different isotopes of ozone, which we could go into on the Ormus side. We could have a long conversation about that. But no, it is not O17. There is no ozone. Yeah,
yes.
gold foil. Yeah, we could use that. We actually use that in some processes, but
It's
that would get
expensive,
expensive too.
very expensive for shipping that water, right?
Yep.
Yeah, let's
Yep.
go into the ozone isotopes and the O isotopes, please, because that is very relevant to my own work as well
Okay.
with atomics, and I would love your wealth of information.
So we'll turn the are you? You know, I hate to name drop because it feels just a little bit elitist. But are you familiar with Barry Carter's work on and his stuff on subtle energies?
I don't know if I am. And no, it's not elitist, it's references,
Okay.
right? Because that's what
Okay.
this is.
All
It's
right.
learning and it's science.
Okay. Gotcha. So Barry Carter was us 25 years ago. Okay. He was a drumheller for Ormus Research. Okay. Had a website called subtleenergies.com. Unfortunately, he's passed away. I don't know if anybody's maintaining that. I haven't been there for a while. He talked about a guy who did ozone research. He had a way of concentrating through shape magnification,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
had a way of concentrating ozone in a way that I've never seen anyone else do. And through an unfortunate event, I don't put this design out because of what I'm about to tell you. This man was there was a huge charge buildup because of the ozone energy, and he was electrocuted and almost killed. And when you look at the technology, it's literally could be considered a free energy device, but you know, that'll be another discussion. But this guy was electrocuted by high energy static electricity that was being stored inside of a, wait for it, gold matrix. Okay. This
Oh,
gold matrix, and this is not Barry Carter, this was his good friend. Barry Carter talked about it and documented it. But this man, he was electrocuted with the gold, with the energy stored in a gold matrix, and he developed the ability to manifest gold. He would literally put his hand over a cup of water. He would flex his hand, and gold fibers would come out of the back of his hand. Okay,
wow.
he would touch a here, there we go. He would touch the side of a picture frame or something like that and leave a gold fingerprint. This was
So that's like a
documented.
King Midas, I believe, right?
Yes,
Like literal
there
coming
you
to life
go.
right there.
Mythology based in fact, right? So this man and Barry did a lot of research, and this is where a lot of the Ormus research outside of the David Hudson path was actually came from. This guy eventually created what we understand as water traps, which is basically taking water, running it through a spiral and restricting the output, creating a reverse spiral back through the first spiral, and it's essentially a way of extracting a crap ton of exclusion zone water, if you want to call it that. This water was oily. This water could dissolve metals. This water was incredibly powerful for healing. Yep, Jim, thank you. So it was quite it was quite powerful, and so a lot of the Ormus research outside of David Hudson came from these guys. And so how did we even all of it because of high energy ozone. Oh, and he actually had reached he documented that he'd reached, I want to say, 036. So it was quite energized. You said the water that zaps you yet contains no ozone. Was it made using ozone or negative energy? It was not made using ozone. It is not made using ozone at all. It is, but if you touch the energy, it will zap you. But we'll get to negative energy here in a second. If you touch the energy, it will zap you, but it is not made through negative energy. I will tell you that there was another researcher by the name of Lamar Porter who took this same technology, alchemy, Tesla technology, 0 point energy, and he went in a completely different direction, and he did make cold electricity. I saw it. You could hold a light bulb in your hand with the bare wires. It's not electrocuting you. Plunge it into a bucket of water, and it's not going to electrocute you. And
I followed that work too. It's wild
okay,
and inspirational. Yeah, I
yeah,
know
it
exactly what
was
you're talking about.
pretty epic. Unfortunately, he would show someone if they sign a non-disclosure, and I'm reading the non-disclosure saying, wow, I could never work with plasma again in my life unless I pay you a royalty. I can't do that. That's
no,
my
that's
world.
insane.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's actually on my list to remote view is what was in Lamar Porter's white box that he wouldn't show me. So yeah,
Right?
we'll see.
What's the Midas King generator effect right there?
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, I've been jumping around
Oh,
a lot.
oh, that was
But
a
yeah,
different one. That was
so
Jim. Sorry, that was my apologies. This was different.
okay. Yeah, so that's my experience with ozone. The interesting thing was that this guy was using the ozone generator to actually clean mine wastewater. He would run the water that was coming out of the mines into a carbon filtration system, and then would bubble ozone through the water first, and then run it through a carbon filtration system. And that basically, by adding that ozone to the mine wastewater where there's a lot of gold ions, as I know you're familiar with, the water would, the gold ions with the addition of the ozone would latch onto the carbon. So he was finding that he was pulling more gold out of the carbon than the company was actually pulling out of the ground itself, because all those gold ions in the water were supercharged. And so so he was being paid to clean the water, and he was
And
making
getting
money
pure
off
gold out of
gold.
that waste.
Yep. Yep.
One man's
So
waste is another man's gold.
there you go. Well, and that's the whole premise of the Book of Aquarius, right? Where they're talking about how to extract the stone out of urine. So,
Yeah.
which is a viable path. It's not
Right,
pleasant, but it
but
is a viable
it's
path.
gotten so distorted to the point that people are keeping their urine, aging it, and drinking it. And don't do that. God, don't do
Oh
that. Like, right,
no! Oh my gosh!
face palm. That, like,
I
you've
know.
so distorted the original alchemical practice that you've literally retarded yourself into drinking your own urine. Like, no. And like fermented. Like, no, 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 no. It's like there's so many better ways to get these ions and isotopes
Yep.
and
Yep.
the actual alchemy out. I just quickly want to bring up one of my ice cubes right there while we're speaking of gold ionic water. This is the frozen version of my gold ionic
Mm-hmm.
water that I myself drink from my monoatomic and monomolecule gold. Sorry, just highlight myself here being the reference of so there's the purple gold.
Uh-huh.
So it was
Nice.
the so it originally started out. This one is silver, but the gold is the exact same as the white powder.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then when I left that gold out under the sun equinox, it was the autumn equinox, it turned into the purple monomolecule gold that's just as
Mm-hmm.
fluffy and white. And this right here was what I took through US Customs and declared to Customs on my way from Canada to TeslaTech. And I warned them, I was like, it's either not going to show up in your mass spectrometer or it's going to register as carbon. And they looked at me like I was insane. And then 10 minutes later, I hear one guy exclaim, "Holy F, he said it was going to do that." And then I asked them, and they're like, "Sorry, we can't." I was like, "So did it show up as nothing or did it show up as carbon?" He's like, "I can't tell you." And I'm like, "Can you at least say something on camera or give me a written note?" He's like, "Definitely not." I was like, "Yeah, son of a gun," but just goes to show I got to do more work on it. Uh, Anywho, the
Oh,
ionic
I love
water.
that. I love that picture, by the way. I love the standing wave that you've captured there. That is a beautiful thing. I saw that actually in your live stream that you did with Sheila. So that's very cool. That's very exciting.
Yeah, and so it's every single ice cube I make with the gold water does these, and right the standing waves with the exclusion zones, and there it is from above,
Okay.
and it doesn't matter which uh, these are my standard ice cube tray, but there's also smaller ice cubes. Oh, no, now we're out of it. It doesn't matter the shape of the ice cube. It does the exact same every time with the ionic gold water. And then now I will quickly show the ionic silver water, which always freezes in this geometry of like the vortex kind of tornado lightning bolt style with
I love it. Okay.
right. And so this is from the silver that started out as the white type, but no, this is purple. Sorry, the white type, and then to get the silver into the purple, I left it under a full moon, and it's also turned into the purple monomolecule state. And yeah, every single one of them gives you the vortex and then complete clearness throughout the rest of the ice.
I just have to say, I'm seeing somebody say I'm going to turn myself into a gold manifesting guy. I wouldn't do that. There was a dark side to that transmutation. When he
Right? And like
manifested,
the
when he
story of
manifested the
Midas.
gold out of the back of his hands, it was incredibly painful. So just FYI.
That fact, but then also like the legend of King Midas, and it's like it's not a happy outcome when everything you touch turns to gold in the end, right?
Yeah. Well, we could go into, we could have a discussion about the philosophical implications of the Philosopher's Stone, no pun intended. That's a beautiful thing, and I want to talk about. So I did an experiment that reminds me of your ice cubes there. I took and I collected rainwater and dew water right after the spring equinox, which is one of the most powerful times to collect the water, and I collected that on a tarp that then funneled into a glass bottle. Actually, it was a Voss water bottle. Okay, so this water had fallen off of a pine tree onto this tarp, and because that was the only way I could arrange it, and it flows into this water bottle. So then I used a bunch of them. I had several bottles, and I put one on the shelf in an unheated part of my shop. And during the winter, that water froze and thawed and froze and thawed and froze and thawed. And the gur, what we call the brown stuff that forms on the bottom of a condensate like that, the gur was drawn up into a column at the last freezing, the gur was drawn up into a column, and there were all these trails of unfrozen water within the frozen water. It looked like I had grown a pine tree in the bottle in frozen water. And it's like, whoa, okay, so that leads us to the subject of signatures. Okay, we use the phrase frequency a lot, but really it comes back to coherent signatures, and this is one of the reasons why I liked Sheila's work, was that it's about a coherence that forms something greater than the sum of the parts. Like when I was doing some alchemical research on pine trees, we took these pine trees that were growing in volcanic rich soil, burn them in a stove with back pressure, and you burn it over and over again, and until you get this brown ash that looks a lot like dirt. And then you take that and you grind it up, and we put it into a furnace at 1776 degrees, so the melting point of gold, right? And so we put that in there, and we used a little cupcake tin. It was funny. We were making mud pies and cooking cupcakes in a furnace. And on one of the tops of these, I smeared burnt pine resin that I'd collected from the inside of the stove. And when that came out, there was a little, it was about a 1/4 inch tall, and you look at that under a magnifying glass, and it was a gold bonsai tree.
What?
Because
I hope
even
you have
going
pictures of
through,
these,
what's
but
that?
I hope you have pictures of these, but now I just need to reproduce it myself because that is amazing. It's right.
That's that's the path versus the recipe. Okay. But because even through all that processing and all that grinding, and we took this to the nth degree through breaking it down in chemicals and recombining it, that signature of life is still there. It just requires something to give it manifestation. And that, to me, what alchemy is. You're going to break it down into its essential components, and the alchemists had their words for it: the spirit, the salt, the mercury. But you're going to break it down to its essential components, and you're going to recombine it, and it's going to manifest something greater in the long run. And that's, I mean, that's a metaphor for life right there, right? You know,
Right, and
we're
it's the actual alchemical process. That's the whole point of it. And as you just explained, they had their different words. They encoded these
mhm,
processes, these scientific processes, reproducible, but with very esoteric words that do describe the actions, because there is
mhm.
this component of information, memory, life that is contained within it all.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, you know, we all follow a different path. It's like I made a joke once that you know, the fountain of youth is real, but it's different for everybody. It just depends on your path and where you're going to go, and what led you to these points, and where you're going in the future. So it's a powerful way to live your life, definitely.
Absolutely. Well said. And it's literally the like source creation of our universe essentially, and
Hmm.
that's what the ancient alchemists taught, and that's why so much of the information is encoded and is like occulted and esoteric, is that you have to find your own journey to connect with your spiritual awareness to be able to
Yeah,
actually access and use the true alchemy science and understanding.
absolutely. Very true. Very true. Yeah, you just
Um,
have to find what you resonate with, find what builds you, find what is going to build you up. And it can be a painful process. It can be it there there's um it's like the TV series, the you know, I promise you a life of wonder and a life of terror. So it's pretty
right?
wild
Like,
that way.
well, it's the roller coaster, the
Yeah.
duality that you
Yeah.
have to experience the worst fails to be able to pick yourself up and then appreciate when you're on top of the world.
There you go. There you go.
And
Yeah.
so, one of the fails to not do is don't turn yourself blue with the oxidized stuff, right? You don't want to become a
Yeah.
Smurf; you will die. The
Yeah.
Smurfing, that is heavy metal poisoning, and it's not monoatomic; it is diatomic. You will die from the diatomic, and that is the oxidized blue, which will
Yes.
kill you. And so myself, this is not health advice, not advising anyone, but my own self guinea pigging for 13 years now. I drink this water, which is the ionic water
Hmm.
of the monoatomic that is then dissolved as the ionic bonded gold and silver water. That is my own doing, but
Hmm.
very easily, and a lot of people they have it oxidized, and that kills you and creates heavy metal poisoning. And then some people even consume the colloidal, and the colloidal is the bottom monomolecules of that, and then you will perish very, very quickly. And yes, so you
Yes,
can harm
indeed.
yourself just as much
Mhm.
as you can do good, if not more, if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's when I did a bunch of research into the Bible code, it comes down to the idea that the right dose is medicine, the wrong dose is poison, right? And so there's purposes and for things like when I was doing work in the Bible code, silver is the medicine of healing to preserve that which is close to death. And that's its biological purpose. It's not meant to be consumed in its metallic form. It has a purpose, and don't overuse it. You know, I don't know if you saw Jeff Hayes, the blue man at the TeslaTech conference. Yeah.
So I saw him in my opening presentation where I specifically stated what I just stated on the warning of the Smurf and the
Yep.
oxidization. And then I encountered him in the hallways at least 10 times, but he would not make eye contact with me or talk to me whatsoever. And I feel bad because it's like, man, don't do it. You're doing the wrong thing. But he's Blue Man and he wants to be, and it is what it is, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he did that. He did that years ago, many
So
years ago. Yeah,
okay,
I've known Jeff for years. Yeah, he did that many years ago
so he
to try
stopped.
to prove that silver couldn't hurt you. And it turned him the way you saw him now. He actually came to us and we helped him chelate some of that out so it wasn't jacking up his internal organs. But
Thank
you
God.
know, yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah, there's he is a character, definitely.
Okay,
Definitely.
so as long as he's like no longer consuming more of it, that's good then, and that
Yeah, yeah.
you actually saved him because there, yeah, like there's he would had he continued on that path would not have been alive today for exactly the reasons you state that it literally clogs up your organs with the heavy metal poisoning of the matter.
Yeah, you know, in all things, you need to be guided by the Spirit. You need to be guided, you know, remote viewers, we call it the signal line. In all things, you need to be guided by your higher consciousness. However you interact with the universe, you need to find that highest and best, and to make certain you're in alignment with divine destiny. Because um, when you walk the path of ego, it can be very destructive. And so, I mean, I've seen it so many times with Alchemist. The universe will put the hammer down on them, and it can be very hurtful. So, um, walk
Absolutely.
in humility, walk softly, and carry a big stick. But
Right?
yeah,
I'll always
definitely.
remember we are just another grain of the sand of the beach of the ocean that is the universe, right? Like we
There you
we
go.
all have our own sovereign divine connection to God's source creation and consciousness, but just as much there's always the demon tapping on your shoulder trying to get in, and very often when one lets their ego cloud their judgment, that the emotions of hate, greed, anger, jealousy, the rest will let the demonic force influence and take over. And it's that our third D reality is our free will to make sure that we choose to listen to the higher divine God's divine creation, right? That it's about creating and blessing living, not destroying, and not letting the ego of the individual. We are all these God's children. We are all made in God's image. Thus, we need to all work together to connect to God, but go through ourselves.
I resonate with what you're saying, man. I resonate with what you're saying. I always try to work into a presentation. One of the most there you go. One of the most powerful books I ever read was a book called Power versus Force: The Hidden Determinants of Human Nature, and it basically breaks down the human emotional scale into an energetic level where fear, guilt, and greed and avarice are some of the lowest, and then highest Christ consciousness type of um, thought processes are the highest. And as long as the human race resonates in with fear, greed, and avarice. They will find something to be afraid of, find something to hoard, and find something to keep from other people from having. And our current structures of energy and oil production and all that fun stuff meets all three of those criteria. And the work that you are doing and the work that other people are doing in this area in TeslaTech, it is an elevated form of energetic consciousness. And that's one of the interesting paradigms that we have to move away from, is move into this elevated form of consciousness. That's what the Rodin coil, I've spent a lot of time with Marco Rodin, and built a lot of Rodin coils, and that's one of the processes behind it, is this process that says, you know what, we've got to move away from fear into a place of trust. So yeah, exciting stuff.
That is. Steve got my hopes up saying Rodin was supposed to show up. I guess he didn't end up this year, but he didn't have a presentation schedule. But I really would love to meet him next year. And so just to tie it back, one last thing I meant to say that I forgot to say is that it's like this God mode that kind of takes over and energizes one's consciousness and ego when you truly connect to the higher realm and stuff. And that a lot of people, if you're not at peace and harmony in your own self, your own life, your own consciousness, you'll literally go insane because you're out of your mind, because you have this extra source consciousness in. And that's where a lot of people will all of a sudden, like, they'll go crazy and be like, oh, I'm Jesus, or oh, I'm a demon, or oh, and this and that. And that's what I've essentially made to come to understand of it. And that then a lot of people, like absolute geniuses, will connect to it, and like a lot of people won't understand Rodin because he is connected to like that God source code, especially through his mathematics and then the fields of those coils and stuff. And it's like, but you have to just see that it's this extra energy in, this extra consciousness in that he's tapped into, sort of thing, right? Remote viewing, out of body experience. So it's like when you're doing it, you're a conscious cosmonaut, right? Like you're
I love that.
Like the space, right? Why is it a space? Mm-hmm. You're a space cadet right now. Well, because my consciousness is out in the universe somewhere, connected to other things, trying to bring it back home. And it takes a lot to be able to do that, and then actually coherently transfer that information through your own words to an understanding to others, right? Like it takes a lot.
Can I tell an experience along those lines?
Please do.
So I watched Terrence Howard's interview on Joe Rogan a while back, and I watched it and I thought, I have seen enough in the last 25 years that I don't discount anything. I'm going to let it percolate. But I was on the fence about some things, and then I met Terrence at the TeslaTech conference. He was there. I talked with him for about 45 minutes, and he had his models there. He had his geometrical models, and sitting there in that field.
You got to see them. I'm jealous.
Oh yeah, they were very cool. The energy coming off of those. Imagine a 3D model of Sheila's holograms that she projected. Imagine a 3D model, and that's what we were feeling. And I was just like, oh, okay. I got a distinct Wingmaker vibe off of it. I got a distinct, okay, all right. And at the end of it, I said, I shook his hand and I said, you are doing God's work here. Don't let anyone tell you differently. Your work is going to change the world. Right or wrong, it's planting seeds that are going to do something for the planet. And that is the most important thing that you can do. Plant those freaking seeds.
Absolutely. And that it's the seed of life, that sacred geometry that he got that
There you
from.
go.
So
There you go.
God's work. Well said, right? And love Terrence, connected with them myself there too, got to meet him, and we're supposed to be doing a couple of projects together. I've been talking back and forth with him on the phone, but he is a very busy individual, so we will see if it manifests, but I know it will. I have faith. But yeah, there's so much epic awesomeness that happens and you get to experience at TeslaTech. And shout out to David Cooper, who I met, who came down. And it's like, even for those, if you're close by and you can't afford the ticket, just come hang out in the parking lot. You never know who you're going to meet and hang out with and talk to, right? And so I got to meet David Cooper, and I've been hoping to have him on my podcast forever. He was an elusive creature. He had messaged me several years ago about his translucent silver that he makes that also loses its electric conductivity as well, but remains pure silver. And he was nice enough to give me a couple of the samples. I don't know if it's showing properly there, how the light's passing through, but yeah, he just came, hung out in the foyer for a bit, and we finally connected. And I don't know if it's showing properly. Maybe it's too bright, but well, you can see the lights going through, and that silver is really covering it. So it is completely translucent. Some are purple, some are more of just a gray. Oops, no, that's the wrong way. Anyways,
I've got a whole Star Trek transparent aluminum vibe going on here.
Exactly, that's exactly what it is. And I myself have gotten some of the transparent aluminum in the past in my electrolysis reactions. I just didn't pull it out in time, and then it completely broke down. And that's what I was like, oh my goodness, I need to connect with David Cooper. And it happened by him making the amazing decision to just come down, visit, hang out in the foyer, and us connect.
That's awesome. That is fantastic. You know, the vendors at the conference are oftentimes as much fun as any of the speakers too. So connecting with all those people, just wandering around there, it's really a great experience.
It really is. It's so next level. And I got to meet you through just wandering around there, right? And how we connected and how this is happening right now. And so you're in a similar situation where you're making the charged water right now for yourself, just like I am with mine. I get a lot of requests for sales. I'm not quite there yet, but working on it. And yeah, it's the shipping. Have you talked to Mike at HowTube at all? Like, have you connected with him over the years?
No. So, like I said, I've been a hermit for a while now. I guess that's not the right term. I've been out of the public eye and concentrating on my own things and getting into a good space with this. I had a few bad experiences, you know. You sit there and you talk about okay, here's how you make gold with hydrogen and water, and some very interesting people come into your life pretty quick. And so I just said,
we'll talk about that privately off air.
It's on YouTube. You don't even have to. What's his name? Pure Energy Systems did an interview. You can look up YouTube, and I'm there. I'm standing in my kilt and this black T-shirt, and talking about how to use hydrogen. We documented transmutation of elements using seawater, using mine wastewater, using just low energy hydrogen, doing it, and it's a powerful thing. It's not like you can make money off of it, but people want to. But it's proof of concept that, hey, the essential building blocks of life are hydrogen, and you combine them the right way, the correct shape, like you talked about on that other podcast, the correct shape of energy. You put the right shape in there, and you can build anything.
exactly what I've been saying and working on, and you worked on, and the type of Men in Blackish, I'm guessing, showed up ish.
No, it was
No, not men.
it was people with gold fever.
Oh, snap! Even
The
worse.
scary
Even
ones.
right. Oh God.
We did have an experience where we conducted an experiment with a cloudbuster technology, combining it with Tesla and the 0 point ether technologies, and
That
in 45
registered, bro.
minutes. Yeah, in 45 minutes, the black Suburbans were driving up and down the road, which is a nice trick because the nearest big city is 50 miles away. So,
Oh, no doubt. That's a very fast response team, and they are. And
yep.
I myself, I guess it was 11 or 12 years ago now when I was part of the Canadian Keshi Plasma team production team and produced the one time I powered up. I've never told this story before publicly. I powered up one of the Maggrav units out in a field, and it was the one and only time I connected to that specific plasma consciousness. It was messed up, but connect to it, and that's a whole other story. But it generated a giant blue glowing plasma field that like accompanied about half this hill, and within 10 minutes there was the blacked out helicopter and the blacked out Suburbans driving around. And back in those days I was living a different, less public, marijuana wasn't legal yet, life, and yeah, the scared the shit out of me, and no, didn't continue with that aspect of it. But yeah,
well,
yeah,
you could think Patrick Flanagan developed the technology to detect missile launches when he was like 9 years old. And they've just gone further. They can detect ether-based technologies. They can detect anti-gravity technologies, because basically by keeping us from having those technologies, they keep a certain amount of control. And I'm not talking about governments. I'm talking about the powers that be behind all that. They keep us in a certain amount of control by not letting us have those. Because imagine if the average person could make a spaceship and go to the moon, what would we discover? You know, what would we see?
And that's exactly it. But then there's also another barrier when broken. I've heard a lot of different inventors and people that I work with here and in this community, and a few of them even watching right now. Oh, and there's David Cooper, who I was talking about. Amazing, awesome to have you, brother. And that when you reach a certain energy field density that you create, that there seems to be versions of the grays, but at least just as shadows. So essentially, some sort of other entities that appear. Have you ever had any experiences with that, or?
Yeah, we could go. We call it the creepy pasta field.
There we go.
You've got high strangeness, which is when you, I don't know, remote view the nature of God, remote view something moving beyond the speed of light, and then you've got the creepy pasta, which is the grays, the SWs, the different things that lurk in the shadows. I have definitely had experiences with those. It gets pretty interesting. I have learned, it's like I say the word SW because I will never say the word spelled out the whole way, because when I worked in the wilderness, you didn't say that word because they would come for you that night. And so there's certain things there's certain powers that you don't fear them, but you respect them. So
exactly.
Yeah, I have definitely had experiences with those.
You know its existence. You just engineer around it, and you just don't engage it. And you most of the time, you show something respect, and you don't focus on it. It'll do the same to you, right?
That's right. That's right. So, yeah, interesting times.
It is. And it's that there's this real multi-dimensional reality to our existence and to that exists when dealing with breaking these specific barriers of the construct of our world.
Mm-hmm. You know, and that's part of our path, is to find ways to break our consciousness out of the matrix of control that we exist in. That's part of the purpose of alchemy, is to become. It's called to be. let me say this. Let me say this right without anything else. Low death Kiev, to become unbound by time and space, is some of my research that I found, and that was one of the purposes of alchemy. And when you use ether-based technology, when you start delving into zero-point energy technology, and you let that energy flow through you, you become part of it, and it can unbind you from the confines of a three-dimensional reality. It's like Guy Obolensky's machines. I'm standing inside of a living lightning bolt, and it was one of the most transformative experiences of my life. So yeah, powerful stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard of that.
Imagine standing on an event horizon
That's
with energy
amazing.
flowing through you 30 times the speed of light. And then imagine that energy starts communicating with you. And I'm not the only one that had this experience. There not a lot of people, because I have a feeling that it had to do a lot with the Ormus and the etheric elements that I've taken. But I'm literally standing inside of this living lightning bolt as the energy is playing off my fingers, and my fingers look like plasma globes, and then the energy started talking to me, and it was just amazing. So we can have that conversation another time.
Or just delve a little bit more right now and then continue it after the stream. But I sounds like I need to want to do the same, and that you've experienced something I've heard a couple people talk of, and that I've envisioned myself experiencing at some time in the future, and confirmed with what you suspect with the Ormus stuff being within you and those fields it creates, with what I myself have suspected and experienced bits of the exact same, and it's another confirming of some of those ancient legends by the pharaohs, kings, and what they called the demigods, and why they were using it and consuming it.
Well, and you know one of the things that I found in my research was that those ancient what we call burial sites were not burial sites; they were initiation sites, and you would consume, over a period of a year, you would consume these massive amounts of etheric or Ormus alchemical substances, and then you would be, and see if this sounds familiar with someone we all have experience with. You would then be buried in a chamber, a sarcophagus, for 3 days, while people made very interesting sounds outside of your burial. And then on the third day, you would arise and greet the morning sun on the spring equinox, and this would rejuvenate you as the sun imprinted its frequency upon you and rejuvenate your body and soul. Does that sound familiar?
Wow. And what you just confirmed, though, like with my own monoatom or monomolecule gold forming from the sun on that on the opposing equinox, was when I did it, right? And then that, and I just called it royal purple or miss gold for that. What I believe and would have been what they were consuming in that month, and that my own research has also led to finding that it's a specific process of consuming a somewhat large amount of it over a I thought it was 3 months, but I might not have interpreted properly, and a year sounds more correctly of preparing yourself for it.
It could be.
Right? Either way, a long period of time of consuming it, doing these rituals that aren't rituals. They're actually steps to physically and consciously, mentally prepare your mind, body, and spirit to be able to then practice and connect and use that technology of these higher spin state elements within you to then have the connection through the sun and that well, yeah, the pyramids, the sarcophagus, now the kings. It's so insane. And it also sounds like the isolation chambers that people now use for the out of body experiences.
Yep. And you could I found the same thing when I researched the ghost dance, and I found records of the ghost dance where these these shamans would dance for 3 days while consuming certain substances, and concentric rings, counter rotational. Okay, just like your other podcast that talked about it, concentric rings of dancers and chanters and drumming, and then they go into the sweat lodge where they sweat in a very powerful initiation environment, and then they come out 3 days later empowered to carry out the energy that had been imbued into them. I found references all over to this, even the story of the river Styx. And when they found the actual place that was described by Orpheus and the initiation chamber, and guess what? It's got a tunnel that leads right to the morning sun on the spring equinox, and they found the vessels that held the substances, and yeah, it's really powerful. Hey, listen, I need to mute real quick. I apologize. I've been here a little longer than I thought I would be. Hold on one second, okay?
All good, brother. Appreciate your time. And I was gonna state anyways, I find it absolutely synchronistic, but also confirming. But also, don't try this at home unless you are mentally there and prepared. But my own experiences where I sleep deprive myself over 3 days to get to the third day where I will have this source conscious download on the morning of the third day when I go out into the sun. And yeah, it's like it's always on that third day morning when I go out to the sun that I will get this download. But it's like you continue on, you will actually go literally insane. It's at the 3 day sleep deprivation that you're legally insane. And it's because you are out of your mind. You're very spaced out, but your consciousness is then connected into like the ether around you. That's why the wind starts, you hear whispers of, well, ghosts and other entities or the plants, whatever's around, the shadows start moving and stuff. And that's not being on drugs. That's actual just sleep deprivation, and that you have to do it sober. If you're on drugs, it's going to be distorted and you will actually most likely get possessed by whatever entity is part of the substance you're doing. But I'm more talking about specifically all of the chemical drugs that are not the natural. There's the psychoactives that a lot of the shamans, the tribes, and the ancients use for their spiritual journeys or whatever. But it's a one-time experience that you use for your soul journey to connect and experience the other realm as the portal. Then the whole point is, once you've experienced it, connected with it, to be able to develop your own ability to reconnect into it. You cannot keep using the drugs to do it, because when you do, that's how, well, you get lost. And right, and you just, that's not the path. The path is to find it, experience it, and then reconnect to it yourself through your own inner peace, your own sobriety, and your own higher living.
I'm really, bless you. Thank you for that. I'm reminded of the Ram Dass experience where Ram Dass takes LSD to his guru and says, "Oh, you've got to try this. You'll be able to talk to God." And the guru's like, I already kind of do. And so Ram Dass gives his guru LSD, which it gives him a dose that should last like hours, and the guy's like, after about 5 minutes, he says, okay. He says, well, you don't understand. The guru says to Ram Dass, he says, you don't understand. This can take you there, but then you come back. I live there. So, yep, it's powerful. And you talk about going outside, and I know you mentioned hugging a tree. There's a Rosicrucian well, not an initiation, a meditation, where you go out and you find yourself a nice pine tree that, and you go out in the early morning before the sun rises, and you just place your fingers against the pine needles on that pine tree, and you're barefoot, you're breathing into the ground, you're breathing into the tree, and when that, you can try this, and when that sun rises and hits the top of the tree, it just pops right into you, and it is amazing, beautiful feeling to be connected. It's like literally a wave of coherence that's connecting you through the earth, through that tree, to the energy of the sun, and back and forth. It's a beautiful experience. So yeah, I love it.
I need to try that. That sounds so much on point. But it wasn't me that mentioned it. I gotta give credit. That was Sheila and Sheila's practices, which I've since tried and done, and absolutely. And originally, several years ago, talking with John Hutchinson in one of our interviews, he was mentioning specifically how that you're using the trees as one of the strongest antennas to get through etheric and galactic charge and information and waves and stuff like that. It's all so connected. And yeah, as that wave of coherence from the sun, I need to do that with the pine trees now. And you have to be grounded. You can't be doing it you have to do it with soulless rubber shoes, aka your grounded feet, so your soul can be grounded and then to the divine as the sun comes in, right?
But there was some work done called global scaling and universal scaling. It basically imagine a communication device that didn't communicate through radio waves, communicated through gravimetric waves. And it was pretty wild. I think it was shut down by the powers that be. But what was interesting was the inventor of it basically used trees to tune the technology, because the trees of every type have a similar resonance pattern because of their size and shape and interaction with the earth. He literally used trees to do it, as the basis of its resonance.
That makes wild a lot stuff, of sense, huh? Right? Yeah. And shout out to Mike Faraday Research, if you're still in the chat, brother. I saw him earlier. Oh yeah, that Faraday was. We were also discussing. I don't know if you've seen the weekly Friday night League of Extraordinary Inventors podcast that I co-host with Mike. But many years ago, when we were starting out, it was. We still have to do it, but we got to wrap a whole bunch of wire around a couple of pine trees and use that as an antenna for our free energy to then ground. And right, so that's a perfect segue, though. Why don't we get into some of the free energy and ZPE work that you've done over the years? Because there's an immense amount.
Well, we didn't set a time frame. I don't have a lot of time left.
You got to get going. All right. Well, let's wrap.
But let's just plant some seeds here, because that's what we do. We're alchemists. We plant seeds, right? Free energy is one of the, like I said, as long as the people resonate with certain levels of energy, fear, greed, and avarice, we're going to find energies that manifest that, and literally how we make energy is based on that. And just like the sound barrier, just like speed of light, unity, you have to think a different way on the other side. And so, as an example, Dr. Wei-Ling Yu was there at the TeslaTech conference, and he was the he was the intro speaker to Terrence Howard,
Yeah.
and Dr. Wei-Ling Yu talked about his model of the universe, which is North Pole magnets, South Pole magnets, and wave propagation. And it was interesting. A lot of people were kind of down on that in conversation. So I cornered him because I did a lot of research with a small group of people who were dedicated to the Coral Castle code, decoding the Coral Castle and finding the information embedded in there. And if anybody's if you read the book Magnetic Current by Ed Leeds Scalman, read it and do every single one of those experiments. It will change your world. Okay, it's a powerful thing, and it feels like it's written by a second grader. But the reality is he did that to weed out the people that were too smart and that knew too much. But based off of the Coral Castle concept, the book called Magnetic Current, I have seen and worked with at least 3 over unity devices that were based off of the function of that reality is composed of North Pole magnets, South Pole magnets, and light. And by combining those in certain patterns, remember, spiral patterns, cohesive, coherent patterns, you can manifest all sorts of things. We literally used magnets to clean the air in a shop filled with cigarette smoke and burnt cutting oil from a milling machine. By putting magnets into a pattern that spun in the shape of an oxygen molecule, and it literally cleaned the air out in the shop. North Pole magnets, South Pole magnets, and light. And so I actually cornered Dr. Wei-Ling Yu, and I said,
Weeping.
It doesn't matter what the world says. It doesn't matter that every physicist can say, but quantum, but this, but that. It doesn't matter if you're right. What matters is that you're doing it, because I have seen over unity technology based off of your theory. And he had tears in his eyes when I told him that. It was a powerful moment. Basically, if you can imagine a hockey puck. I'm not talking out of school here. It was actually on the internet for a little while, but I worked with the device. If you can imagine a hockey puck with magnets on it, you've got a little impeller, almost similar to a Bedini motor. You spin it up, and it starts spinning, and that becomes the mothership. Then you take another hockey puck with magnets on it, and you spin it up, and you get it close to that, and it phase locks. And then you could take that other hockey puck, and you could take it 5 feet, you can take it 10 feet, you can take it 5 miles away, and it will still be spinning. And you can do that 1,000 times, because it's
locking is
tied in with the wave.
So phase locking is essentially quantum locking then.
There you go.
And that's also essentially harmonic resonance, like with Tesla coils that are like the same as tuning fork sort of things, that you have it at that same resonant oscillation, right? That when you have the resonant oscillation locked together, that's the quantum locking and the phase locking. And what you just said, absolutely amazing. I had the pleasure of connecting with Wei-Ping Yu a couple of times, recorded a couple of videos there, and he is a beautiful soul. He's truly I love his theory. I find it quite accurate on many levels, and no one has the full theory together the first time, or the full theory together, because it's literally a theory of everything, and it's what his is a very valuable piece of it. And I'm just going to finish off here with one last ice cube, which here, this was a combination of the ionic silver and ionic gold water. And sure enough, we see both the torus as well as those fields in that ice cube with both of them together. So you combine it, and it still has the memory an imprint of both.
Beautiful. That signature is prevalent. I'd love to understand. I'd love to know if there's some type of directionality aspects to it, or just and a larger, and maybe a larger vessel that we could I'm not criticizing your work in any way.
No,
I'm just saying,
expanding upon it. I appreciate
it. How can we map some of these interactions, or is it just meant to be experienced? You never know.
Well said, and more experiments to do to map the experience of it. I love it. Any final words before we have to let you go, and we have to have you back ASAP because this was amazing and so much more to discuss.
It was a pleasure and a joy to be here. Thank you very much for arranging this, and I'm grateful. Just like I said, power versus force. Don't go to fear. Go to courage. Go to courage and above, and see where it takes you.
Absolutely. Well said, brother. And at the very least, you can catch this amazing individual and myself presenting next year in Albuquerque in August, TeslaTech 2026. And Vernon's also restoring his epic role as the MC. So he'll be introducing every amazing presenter there, and we all are. So everyone should both use my affiliate link in the descriptions to buy 2025's digital presentation that is streamed. I forget the exact words, whatever it is, on demand, $100, and you get all 5 days of the presentations, of majority being PhDs, and then extreme ingenious inventors like this man, but he's not on it. But you'll do with me. Here's mine from this year. But Vernon, there's many of Vernon on past years that you can also purchase. Point being, for $100 each year's, you get forever when you buy it. So it's on demand forever access for just $100. And yeah, if that's to keep you going for now, and then next year, see Vernon, see myself, see Steve, and the rest there. It's awesome. We'll let this man go. Thank you all, and we will do this again soon. Much love.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, brother.
You crazy mother. Yeah.
It's just Bernie.
Bernie, just like last week, huh?
Weekend at Bernie's.